The conclusion of the Epstein investigation was released, and no one likes this news. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. In this video, I've already looked up the statistics, and about 90% of you are going to disagree with me. That means I will lose subscribers, I will lose views, and I will lose money for telling you what I think. How about that for an intro? So I hope you'll give me a chance to explain myself. Of course, you're always welcome to disagree with me in the comments. And I already know how these comments are going to go. It's going to be 90% of people saying, Doug, you're a sellout and you're wrong. Welcome to Doug in Exile. Sometimes you just have to do your job and not count the cost, okay? Here's where we're gonna start. This is the conclusion just in. The United States Department of Justice and the FBI joint Epstein memo says, quote, there was no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. There's also, they concluded, there is no evidence that he committed suicide. Now comes, do you believe it or not? Okay, I'm going to go into this. It's a long story here because you're going to have to call Trump, Dan Bongino, Patel, and Pam Bondi. You're going to have to say that they're liars, or they're compromised and paid off, or too afraid of this giant evil force to tell the truth. And so they lied to you officially in this investigation. Now, here's where I'm going to disagree with a lot of you, and you can say what you want. I really do believe Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. And Trump has said that. I think he had a lot of reasons to do that. The cameras, we're going to go into some of this about, the cameras didn't work and the guards weren't there. I have a simple explanation for that too, which is that I think a lot of times in prisons and in these kind of holding places, the people that work for them want him to commit suicide. So they break the cameras, or the camera shuts down and they don't fix it. And they make sure that there's no guards in the area so that they're not liable. And then they allow him to commit suicide. That does not mean that there's evidence that he was murdered. So now we're going to go into, well, why did everyone believe it? And I'm looking for evidence. And largely, this is like a social contagion. This is something that we all believed on internet hearsay and rumor. And so you can believe what you want. I totally think it's entirely plausible that there's some kind of a deep state, Soros funded, Bill Gates conspiracy. It involves the Jews and the Mossad and Hillary Clinton or whatever. And they wanted Epstein dead. And so they flew in a special agent to go in while the cameras were down and murder him. Okay, that's the proposal. And then though Dan Bongino and Trump knew that's what happened, they lied about it to you. That's where I trust their character more than I trust an internet rumor that 90% of the people believe, okay? And there is a lot of evidence going both sides. So again, I hope you guys can see that I'm not taking a hardcore stand on this. I'm giving you my general opinion that yes, I believe Jeffrey Epstein in general killed himself and had reason to kill himself. Here's more from Colin Rugg. New, the Justice Department releases 10-hour video of the night Jeffrey Epstein died, saying it proves he took his own life, which I don't believe it proves it, because absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. He took his own life, saying there is no evidence he kept a client list. That's a little harder to believe because we have so much testimony, and I'll show you the videos of Pam Bondi and Patel, everyone saying there is a client list. Jeffrey Epstein has a client list. And so it starts to point fingers at people. And now they're official. This is Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, and Trump. There is no Epstein client list. The internet went completely nuts on this last night. The FBI's independent review of this footage confirmed that from the time Epstein was locked up in his cell around 10:40 on August 9th, 2019, until around 6:30 a.m. the next morning, nobody entered any of the tiers in the SHU, the FBI and DOJ said in a memo. Okay, This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. Quote, we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, which would be like Bill Gates. What a complete disaster, these people conclude. I'm going to give you a lot more video that's going to incriminate Pam Bondi and all these people and Dan Bongino, but I'm giving you my overall view on why I generally agree with them on this. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, and I believe it's a personality type. That is, if you tend to believe that we didn't land on the moon, you will also tend to believe in Area 51 that a ship crashed and we have bodies and we're pulling the intelligence out of that you believe in alien life. You will tend to believe in chemtrails, which Marjorie Taylor Greene is looking into, that those are weather seeding and manipulation of people and all that. You will tend to believe that JFK assassination was two shooters. You will tend to believe that 9/11 was an inside job. You'll tend to believe all conspiracies. And that's what I've found in my past, is that in general, I've asked people about which conspiracy they believe. They never just believe one, they tend to believe in all of them because I believe it's a personality type, okay? Now, that's my opinion. And I'm not that personality type. I have kind of a minimal belief system. I believe the thing that requires the least amount of faith because I already have a faith. I have Christianity. So on everything else, I'm a huge skeptic. That is, I just go, what is the minimum thing to believe? And unless there's just overwhelming evidence. So the most simple thing to believe is Epstein killed himself. It's simple. Of course he did. Of course he would. That's more easy for me to believe than that Hillary Clinton and the Black Ops, Jews and Soros and Illuminati helicoptered in a special op. They destroyed the cameras, they, moved the guards on to protect the Mossad and protect whatever. The biggest thing is 90% of the people already believe in the conspiracy. So they're not covering anything up by not releasing this stuff. They didn't suddenly convince 90% of the people. 90% of the people are going to suddenly go, oh, of course there's not a client list. And of course, Bill Gates isn't involved. No, they'll actually deepen their conviction. So I'm saying there's no gain in the government saying that Epstein killed himself because no one will believe it. Okay, so you're going to have to wrestle with all this detail. You guys can still come up with your own opinion. Okay, so this is Dan Bongino taking both sides on the Epstein thing, which makes him suspicious. I'm only saying I trust the guy. I have a pretty good judgment of character. I don't think he's someone who can be bought, period.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
So that's Dan Bongino in 2023, before he got his job for the Trump administration. He said, now, no one's ever shown these videos. They've only said, we know they're there. Doesn't mean that they're not there. Just means I've never seen evidence, okay? Whatever Epstein did, he clearly was a bad dude. Doing bad stuff with kids, that's been fleshed out in a case. But Dan Bongino in 2023, what happened to him between 2023 and 2025? You're going to tell me that Dan Bongino is bought and sold and he's lying to you. That's what I don't believe. So here he is now, after working for the Trump administration.
He killed himself.
He killed himself.
You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I've seen the whole file. He killed himself. Again, that's the easiest thing for me to believe, by the way, because it doesn't require a whole lot of faith to believe it. You have to have positive evidence. The cameras didn't work inside the cell. And so I have no evidence to disbelieve him. And so he's allowed to conclude that. In general, I'll take his expert witness on that Epstein probably killed himself. Okay. Here's Owen Gregorian, the Trump, satisfied with the FBI probe into the Butler assassination attempt. Okay, ready for this? President Trump expressed strong approval of the FBI's investigation into the assassination attempt against him in Butler, Pennsylvania. Speaking to the Daily Caller on Thursday, Trump said he is very satisfied with the official narrative surrounding the case. This marks the first time the president has publicly shown full confidence in the investigation. Previously, Trump had expressed some doubts about the details of the incident. He acknowledged trusting his team, but noted that certain elements of the case seemed a bit strange. At that time, Trump said, "I'm relying on my people to tell me what it is, Secret Service. They tell me it's fine, but it's a little hard to believe." The FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino also addressed the investigation in March. In an interview with Fox, Bongino said, "In some of these cases, you're looking for is not there. And I know people, I get it, I understand. It's not there. If it was there, we would have told you." So that's another conspiracy, that the assassination attempt on Trump was a conspiracy organized somewhere. And then Dan Bongino goes, "Look, I get it. I thought the same thing. Now I'm looking at it and the evidence is not there." And I have to just ask you, does your gut tell you that Dan Bongino is a liar and that Trump are liars? I don't believe that. I believe them. I believe them. That Trump is satisfied with the case and it didn't reveal a conspiracy. And it's the same thing with Epstein. Again, I'm showing you guys I'm not just giving you my point of view, okay? I'm giving you all sides of this because I want you can make up your own decision. I'm telling you why I believe what I believe. Here's a guy that I respect a lot. This is Judge Napolitano, who says this thing smells really bad. And I really respect his voice. So listen to him. This is from Devery Darkins posted this.
FBI Director Kash Patel, right? Dan Bongino, the Deputy FBI Director, both firmly in the camp prior to this of believing there was a cover-up, now both saying there isn't.
Add the Attorney General and the President of the United States. Add a federal district court judge in Brooklyn here in New York City who presided over the trial, at the end of which she ordered everything released.
So look, these are all people that at one point thought there was something suspect. These are all straight shooters, and they're all saying the Epstein thing, I'm only agreeing with these two minimal facts. There was no client list, and Jeffrey Epstein indeed killed himself and was not murdered by insider deep spook government thingies. So let's continue with Napolitano here, because now he's going to nail him.
So something is amiss here. Politically, the MAGA base won't be happy about this because they've been promised that it will be released. And some of the names you mentioned were leaders of that base, Patel and Bongino. Legally, it's hard for me to imagine that the list has suddenly never existed because of this order from a federal judge.
How can the federal judge demand to release a list if a list doesn't exist? So everyone has talked about this list as existing, and now suddenly it doesn't exist. I'm going to go into more details on people saying that list existed, the client list.
He is going to force the FBI's hand here.
So the other thing,
let me add one other thing. Of all the pathologists in the country, Michael Baden, B-A-D-E-N, is one of the most highly regarded and one of the government's favorites to use when having to explain to a jury how a person died. Michael Baden concluded Epstein was murdered, that it was impossible for him to have killed himself the way his body ended up.
So that's the credible cases against Trump and all that, right? Even including that he believes through this expert witness, that expert guy, highest authority in the government says Epstein did not kill himself. Okay, so I'm letting you guys know I'm hitting both sides of this. I disagree with that side for the reasons that I stated, but now you know. Okay, here's Pam Bondi. The dialogue doesn't match up on this video. That is, it slid a little bit, but this has not been edited from the original.
Yesterday, all the Epstein files are missing. Can you confirm that? They still haven't heard from you.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. and no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that.
So there's a huge volume, and now there's no volume. Again, they're not denying that there's a crime. There was a crime. They're only saying that the crime was not a client list. Here's Kash Patel on Benny Johnson, since we're going through memory lane.
You know, it's the same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing? Oh,
I saw you
give out the list.
I saw you make news this morning about that. I got to get to that.
Yeah.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Because of who's on that list. Now that's Kash Patel before he got his job. And now all these people that ran their mouth, they have to backpedal all this stuff because now it's Kash Patel who's in charge of the agency. When it was someone else, when it was Biden's guy or Obama's guy, they're going, oh, they're covering it up because of who's on that list. And remember, Elon Musk said Trump is on the Epstein list and that's why it won't get out to the public. Again, I'm going to your gut. Is Kash Patel a liar? Is Trump a liar? Because now Kash Patel has seen the list and says there's nothing. I'm going to let him continue here.
You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if you release the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? You're going to accept Dick Durbin's word or whoever that guy is as to who is on that list and who isn't, and that it can and can't be released? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are. We have an election coming up, and we need to adjudicate this matter at the polls. God knows the FBI and DOJ aren't going to do anything. But how are you going to reward the FBI with a new headquarters building after their illegal surveillance on Donald Trump continues with a reauthorization of FISA? And we can't even get basic documents out. This is why America hates Congress. And this is why I'm tired of the Republican majority saying they're going to get the job done and failing.
Again, all this is presupposes. I don't like the conclusion. People just say, well, we all know that Epstein was murdered. We all know what is on this client list, though we haven't seen it. We all know that he is involved with the Mossad and used for these actions against people. I don't know that. I don't know any of that. Instead, my minimal grasp on this thing is that Epstein was a bad dude. Trump has said that. Kash, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi has said that there were hundreds of victims. That does not mean that he had a smoking gun client list. And then, because what you'll have to believe is, if all that is true, and now you have to believe that Kash Patel is part of a lying system, which no one believes. That is, 90% of you believe that no matter what the FBI releases, that there was a client list. So they're not going to convince you. So why lie? They have no gain in lying about this to you because you already believe what they're saying is untrue, right? They have nothing to gain. Same way that my show, if you say, oh, Doug, you've been bought and sold by China and George Soros and Epstein and Hillary got to you, and that's why you're coming out with this opinion. No, I'm going to do nothing but lose subscribers, lose views, and lose money on this. And many of you will not be convinced. And the same thing with Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, and Trump. They will only lose followers. They will only lose credibility and lose money for coming out with this story today. And they knew it would only cost them and make them embarrassed, including them negating their own past that they have said. They have nothing to gain to do this. And that starts to smell like the truth to me. That's my opinion on it. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. I'm Doug in Exile.